Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. A crackdown on rural crime. Police recovered dozens of items in a raid in Dartford, but farmers in Kent say they're still being targeted.
Just weeks to find a new home. The Brighton bookshop, dedicated to writers and readers of black origin, facing closure as costs spiral.
Also tonight, in training for the Brighton Marathon, the Sussex man running in memory of his daughter, hoping to raise thousands for the therapy unit she loved.
And have you ever wondered how to make the perfect cup of coffee? We'll let you know from the creme de la creme of the industry later in the programme.
Good evening. £30,000 of stolen farming equipment has been recovered in Kent as police ramp up their efforts to tackle rural crime.
Officers raided a storage unit near Dartford as part of an investigation into a stolen quad bike, where they found tools and dozens of industrial hedge trimmers.
Farmers in the county say that despite efforts by police, they continue to be targeted by thieves. Here's Kit Bradshaw.
A police custody loading bay filled not with prisoners but possessions. Some £30,000 worth of stolen agricultural equipment, thought to have been snatched from farms and businesses across the southeast.
We've got some pressure washer equipment, some chainsaws, brush cutters and lawn mowers.
The huge haul was found in a single lockup by officers from Kent Police's Rural Task Force.
We received some information about a stolen quad bike, and thankfully that quad bike had a tracker system in it. So that led us to a lockup in the Bean area of Dartford. We were able to gain access to that lockup, and inside there was an Aladdin's cave of what was suspected to be stolen items.
And how common is it for you to come across a single lockup with that amount of suspected stolen items?
It's quite unusual, and I have to say, without that tracker information, we never would have come to this conclusion.
The quad bike had been reported stolen from a shed in the village of Five Oak Green near Tunbridge last week, with officers tracking it to the storage unit in Bean within 24 hours.
Kent is said to have more farms and small holdings than neighbouring counties, with police officers saying that means more opportunities for criminals intent on stealing high-value items, with the advice to make sure such objects are securely locked away and clearly marked with the owner's details.
On this farm in Headcorn, all their machinery is now tracked and marked after tens of thousands of pounds worth of kit was stolen in December.
Bigger equipment, we have to be very careful where we leave it on site now, because they're very quick to relieve us of that. Even though we know we're hidden up wherever we are, they seem to know where we are and they take it. It's happening all across the county, it's not isolated, and they know what they're doing.
They've brought in new security measures here, but that's not the only additional cost.
Our premiums are going through the roof. My insurance premiums for everything I do last year were approximately 18,000. This year I've had to renew, and they're just a tad over 22,000, and that's in a 12-month period.
Only a third of this loot has so far been traced back to its original owners, and no arrests have been made. But officers are appealing for anyone who recognises any of the recovered items as theirs to come forward, as the net closes in on the countryside criminals responsible. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News, Northfleet.
Students at the University of Sussex have come together to collect items for those affected by the devastating earthquake in Turkey. The drive, run by the Turkish Society, will donate money and items, including blankets, tents and cold weather clothing, to local charities who will send them out to the country.
It's really frustrating for all of us to see the news through social media and being so far away from home. We somehow want to help these people and want to involve in this process of helping and supporting the affected people in the affected areas.
The average council tax bill in Kent is set to rise by more than £70 a year. That's according to Kent County councillors who voted to raise the level of taxation by almost 5%. The authority says the budget takes into account the rising cost of services and the need to save £55 million over the next financial year.
Oasis Community Learning Trust, which runs the Oasis Academy, is pulling out of the Isle of Sheppey. The school was branded inadequate last year by Ofsted inspectors. Oasis says it's sorry for not being able to deliver the exceptional education environment that our young people deserve.
Now, new figures suggest that by 2040, the number of people diagnosed with cancer will rise by a third. So now a groundbreaking early diagnosis study has returned to Kent.
Well, thousands of people are taking part in the gallery tests. Sarah Saunders went along to a mobile testing unit in Sittingbourne to find out more.
A simple blood test with the power to detect more than 50 types of cancer before symptoms appear. Kent is one of just 8 areas taking part in the groundbreaking gallery trial. Study volunteer Ron Buck knows as well as anyone the value of early cancer diagnosis.
My wife's got several cancers and she's been treated and, you know, it's successfully. So this is it's a good thing to do.
The test looks for fragments of genetic code which pass from tumours into the bloodstream. It can identify many cancers for which there is no current screening test on offer.
I think the potential for this test to identify patients that have a potential cancer diagnosis as early as possible could have huge implications for the system, the NHS, diagnostic services, treatment services, and the associated costs and potential harm to patients within all of that process.
In the largest trial of its type in the world, thousands of people aged between 55 and 70 have been attending mobile screening units for annual testing. This one is in Sittingbourne.
This is the second year of testing. If anything, it's more crucial. In the first year, the test would have picked up some existing cancers. For the second and third rounds, it will be interesting to see how effective the test is at early detection and how that feeds through into treatment.
This Grail Gallery test has some very exciting preliminary data, but until it's been evaluated thoroughly in a large-scale clinical trial, we won't really know what the impact is on health. And it's fantastic that that trial is happening right now.
It's a study people are proud to be part of.
I've lost my sister, my dad, one of my best friends all to cancer, and one of my relations is going through cancer treatment. You know, to me it was something close to my heart and really important.
If successful, NHS England plans to extend the trial to another 1 million people in 2024. Sarah Saunders, ITV News, Sittingbourne.
A bookshop dedicated to writers and readers of black origin could be forced to close just 18 months after it opened.
Afrory Books in Brighton is thought to be the only store and community space of its kind in our region, but its rental costs are quadrupling.
Well, its landlord is itself a struggling arts charity, but the shop now has just 7 weeks to find a new home. Andy Dickinson reports.
Carolyn Bain is still stacking the shelves of her store with books of all genres that speak directly of and to the black experience, but in a shop whose own story is teetering on a cliffhanger.
On a scale of 1 to desperate, we are desperate. If we look across Brighton, okay, there are 2 front door places for black people in this city. One is a pub up the road, which has the only black manager in Brighton, and the other one is this bookshop. That doesn't exist for any other people group, does it? You know, you don't think, oh, okay, I'm a white woman, where can I go in the city? Everybody needs a space to gather. Everyone needs a space where it's like, oh, I'm going to find, you know, people that think like me, people that understand what issues I face on a day-to-day basis. And so without this shop, there's a lot of families, a lot of people who just lose out.
Seen as so much more than a store, Carolyn's used this space as a springboard to take anti-racism classes into schools, run workshops and launch festivals, bringing a community together.
I came down to Brighton for uni and felt like there was a lack of black community, so like I was often isolated during my uni year. But once I found this place and once I started volunteering and really engaging with the community, I just felt like at home. And like this place has been everything for me.
It would be a terrible loss to the community, loss to Brighton, lost to the whole of Sussex. There's nothing like it. We've become very used to being able to come into this space. There are events that are held here, really excellent events. We've got bookshops, but if you're looking for authors of African origin, they're tucked away in bookshops. They're very hard to find.
In a statement, the shop's landlord, the arts charity Lighthouse, say that they need to look for new sources of revenue, having lost core funding, and that previously they were only asking for a service charge. The black community in this city hoping that they won't lose a core home. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Brighton.
Fingers crossed for them. You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Still to come. A 60% drop in the number of winter birds reaching our shores. What you can do to help.
And running for Luna Rose, why a dad from Sussex is determined to raise thousands of pounds in memory of his young daughter.
So sweet. And you can find more on today's top stories from right across the southeast by heading to our website. Please go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us. The number's there on your screen. It's 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can also follow us. That's on Facebook, on Twitter and on Instagram.
A committee of MPs has released a report urging reform of the private rental market in the wake of warnings of a looming homelessness emergency.
Eviction notices in the southeast are up 80% on this time last year, according to housing charity Shelter. With rents soaring in line with interest rates, there have been calls to introduce controls on charges for tenants.
But those representing landlords warn it may cause many to sell up. Nick Smith reports.
Laura and her young son Ren face becoming effectively homeless. She's been a tenant here for 3 years, but has now been handed an eviction notice by her landlord. She's looking for somewhere else nearby, but prices are simply unaffordable.
I'm paying a reasonable amount, but I think the prices are rising. It's been impossible trying to even view a property. I've had to do interviews on the phone to be able to view a property. I love where I live, I love the community. It will mean uprooting my son basically and myself, and obviously he is quite adaptable, but at the same time it will be quite stressful trying to do that with a young child. I don't really want to have to go to an emergency accommodation and then go to a new accommodation. It will be quite stressful, I think.
Laura's letting agents say she was served the notice because of concerns she'd struggled to afford current payments or potential increases. But her story will resonate with huge numbers of those navigating the rental market. Recent data shows average advertised rents are £140 per month higher than this time last year. And parts of our region, like Brighton and Hove, are now classified as unaffordable for the average couple by the Office for National Statistics.
The average renter is spending about 35% of their income on rent. About 50% of the people we surveyed last November said that they had been asked to pay a higher rent in the past year. And that includes people who are already spending a lot of their income on higher energy bills, and a lot of people are going to be getting into rent arrears and being at risk of eviction.
Porchlight is a charity in Canterbury helping those at risk of homelessness, and they've seen increasing numbers of people left with few other options.
There's a real issue with the lack of affordable housing in Kent. What we're seeing is there are lots of families who can, before the cost of living crisis, they could barely afford to pay their rents, to put food on the table, to pay bills. Now the price of everything has gone up and rents have got so high that they can't get by. They're not able to afford to have a roof over their head, really.
A rent freeze is currently in operation in Scotland, but despite some English councils showing an interest in a similar cap here, the government has ruled it out for the time being, and those representing landlords say such a plan would convince more of them to sell up.
Any implementation of rent control would only serve to stifle the market. We already have a supply and demand imbalance where demand for rental property is off the scale. The market is not a sexy place for landlords to invest, and the only people that are feeling the pain as a result of that are tenants, because there simply aren't enough homes to go around.
The government says they're giving councils more than £300 million this year for emergency housing and to assist those struggling to pay rent. And they plan on introducing the Renters Reform Bill, banning no-fault evictions during this Parliament, the type of eviction that's been handed to Laura. But that leaves at least potentially another 18 months for this to be approved. And for some tenants, it may come too late. Nick Smith, ITV News.
And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Lucrezia Millarini.
Time is running out in Turkey and Syria, where the earthquake death toll has climbed to more than 22,000. But amidst the tragedy, a glimpse of joy, remarkable stories of survival as families are pulled from the rubble 5 days on. Here, the UK economy avoids recession, but the Chancellor warns we're not out of the woods yet. And Jill Scott opens the first of 23 new football pitches named after the Euro-winning Lionesses. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, fewer migrant birds, which used to be seasonal fixtures, are flying to our shores because of a warming climate. It's partly down to a phenomenon known as short-stopping, which only applies to wintering birds.
First identified by scientists almost a decade ago, it's the direct consequence of a rapid rise in temperatures across Europe. Chloe Oliver has this report on how it's affecting birds in our region.
After flying thousands of miles, this is the view many wetland birds will see on a day like today, where better to rest their tired wings. But fewer and fewer of them are being recorded as the climate crisis takes its toll on their habitat. As part of the Wetland Bird Survey, every month thousands of birdwatchers across the UK go out and count in their area. At Elmley on the Swale estuary, volunteers say they've noticed a large drop in the number of birds.
So these are quite worrying declines. Is the wintering population of lapwing and of golden plover, and also the smaller waders which feed on the mudflats, they've all declined.
Warmer winters in the Arctic has seen a 60% decline in water birds over the last decade. That's been caused by a loss of habitat and also the effects of a warming climate on their food supplies, something that experts here say is extremely worrying.
Some species are declining everywhere, something like pochard, which is a diving duck, they're dropping across the board. And even though the numbers might be dropping a bit, we still have 13 million water birds coming here during the winter. We're really important internationally. It's one of the things that we're most special for in the UK.
Neil Calbraid has worked for over 20 years monitoring birds. I caught up with him on his daily round to find out the changes he's seen firsthand.
It's a really nice mix of species we get. It's a nice place just to start the day, really. There's a little egret. It's another species that 20 years ago they'd be really rare, but now they're very common. They've moved up from the south and they're breeding widely. We used to get big groups of goosander in winter, and now we just get one record a year. There's other species like gadwall. We used to get a few of them, and now they're very common. So some species are obviously doing well, some species not so well, and that reflects in my daily bird watching.
By continuing to monitor our feathered friends, we can build a picture of which species are most in need of conservation effort to prevent any more empty nests. Chloe Oliver, ITV News.
Well, we're kind of going to stay on the bird watching theme, with the sport. Andrew joins us in the studio. Andrew, a big weekend for Brighton fans.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't get bigger than this, but as you say, it is the Seagulls versus the Eagles.
We want to make our fans happy. Football is nice for this type of game, and I love this game, and we are ready to play.
Some really tasty matches this weekend, as well as Brighton at Crystal Palace. Gillingham go to 5th place Mansfield, with the Gills hoping to extend their 4-match unbeaten run to get out of the relegation zone, while Crawley look to extend Crewe's run of 5 games without a win. Kent Cricket have signed the Muslim Athlete Charter. The club says the move demonstrates its continued commitment to equality and diversity for all. Going on to say, with more Muslim players and supporters, Kent Cricket is keen to listen, learn and adopt good practice to help everyone feel valued and welcomed. Now, across the southeast, runners are in training for this year's Brighton Marathon, and among them is Matt Vince from Heathfield in Sussex. He's running in memory of his daughter Luna Rose, who died at just 3 years old. Matt is hoping to raise £15,000 for the Chailey Heritage Foundation to help them continue providing the special therapy his little girl enjoyed so much. Malcolm Shaw has more.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Luna Rose was born with a rare genetic condition called global development delay. It meant she couldn't walk or talk and suffered epilepsy. But that didn't stop the little girl taking delight in the world around her.
She was always smiling, just a happy little girl. Everyone was just drawn to her. She just lit up a room when she was in there. She was just amazing.
Luna Rose died suddenly and unexpectedly in her sleep last October at the age of 3. During her short life, she'd often attended the Chailey Heritage Foundation with her mum, Sam. Now her dad is raising money for the organisation, which did so much to support the family, running this year's Brighton Marathon with 3 friends, including his brother Joel.
I stupidly said to Matt, if it gets to 10,000, because it was raising up so quickly, I thought if it gets to 10,000 then I'll run it with him. Now the total's past that quite considerably and I'm having to run it. So
Matt is hoping to raise £15,000 for Chailey Heritage. The money will help fund Aqua Movers, a group providing expert care through activities including hydrotherapy.
I had the chance to, witness a beautiful session that she was really enjoying, going down the slides in the hydrotherapy pool, listening to the music on the mat sessions. I just remember this very smiley and happy little girl, and that's the memory I have of her.
She was so amazing and she was such a fighter, and I just feel like this is just a small gesture to raise funds for a great charity and keep it going, really.
Matt and his team are now stepping up their training, ready to take on the Brighton Marathon in April. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Heathfield.
Yeah, good luck to all the family and everyone gearing up for the Brighton Marathon, which is on April the 2nd.
Yeah, and Luna Rose really was beautiful, and all the best to Matt and family, as you say. Andrew, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Now, whether it's a mocha, an espresso or an Americano, baristas across the country have been showing off their coffee-making skills at the UK Barista Championships in Sussex today.
Yes, and crowds of presumably wired people turned out to cheer on the amazing skills and creativity on display and to try out some of the drinks on offer.
So we thought who better to send along than our reporter James Dunham, who has never drunk a cup of coffee in his life. I think he's going to need a lot of luck. A latte of luck. Oh, never mind.
Aiming to be the top shot. Being the best barista is more than just showing off skill, it's the passion behind each coffee concoction.
There's tastes of cinnamon, tastes of things I've tasted as a kid, and I want people to kind of be able to enjoy that, travel the journey with me and not just sip a cup and go.
Competitors have 7 minutes to serve up 2 espressos and 2 milk drinks, such as a flat white or latte. Kat hopes her Brazilian blend, boasting tropical notes, will tantalise the judges' taste buds.
I wanted to show that Brazilian coffee isn't just nuts and chocolate, it can be more, and it can be very, very mind-blowing.
A lot of evenings of tasting coffee and practicing until like 9, 10 p.m. Getting home, waking up the next day, doing it all over again.
At least you've got coffee to keep you going,
yeah,
give you that energy boost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on it right now. We just dialed in.
The regional heat being held in Chichester as part of a coffee trail in the city, and this event has drawn people in.
I'm a coffee geek, and it's just so nice to be surrounded by
fellow coffee geeks science, isn't it, almost?
After today, is Chichester the coffee capital of the South?
Well, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly how I see it. I think we've brought this competition here. It's been held in much larger cities than Chichester in the past, and it's a real feather in our cap to bring it here.
And a top coffee tip to take away from the tournament: it's all in the beans, says roaster Dominic.
Our job as roasters is to roast transparently and showcase the coffee to the best of its notes that you can get out of coffee.
Presentation is also an art.
Oh yeah, it's coming together.
Here we go, and through. There we go.
Bit of milk on my hands, but actually, that's not too bad, is it? Admittedly, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Should I give it a taste?
Please do.
I'll be honest, coffee's not my favourite drink. Let's give it a go. Not bad, actually. Okay. Maybe I'm converted after today.
For my next fix, there's always the finals of this competition being held in Athens this June. James Dunham, ITV News.
So was that James's first ever coffee?
Well, he said he doesn't like it. How would you know that if you like it if you've never had it? What are you?
I'm a extra hot flat white.
Are you?
Yeah, you?
I'm a skinny one-shot macchiato, please, with chocolate sprinkles on the top.
Ah, you're right.
In a cortado cup.
What a faff.
Weather now. Here's James Wright.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hi there, good evening. Plenty of settled weather through the weekend. Don't be expecting too much in the way of sunshine though, because this high is dragging in plenty of cloud over the northern side of it. It hangs around for quite a while, but as it changes position, we just start to see something a little bit drier moving up from France, and that should give us a bit more brightness. Notice no rain over the next few days, and this front out towards the west is set to stay there for quite a while. As far as tonight goes, well, more clouds starting to spill in. It's been a lovely sunny day today, albeit slightly chilly. This cloud is quite low, so it's going to be a little bit murky and misty, particularly up on the North Downs, not exclusively though, and temperatures were way up on last night. We're looking at lows of around 5 to 7 Celsius. That gives us a bit of good news in a sense. We've got a much milder start to the day tomorrow, so even with that murky start, a little bit of brightness should get us up to around 10 or 11 Celsius. But this cloud is moving all around, so trying to tell you exactly where the brightest or even the sunniest spot in the patch is going to be pretty much impossible. As far as temperatures go, like I say, 10 or 11 Celsius, light breeze, so if you do get a bit of winter brightness, actually not feeling too bad. Quick look at your high tide times, 2:15 in the morning for Brighton and 2:26 in the afternoon. As far as Sunday goes, pretty much a case of rinse and repeat. High pressure very nearby, so not much in the way of breeze. So any cloud you get, you're stuck with it. Again, maybe the odd bright spell. And again, temperatures sneaking into double figures. Monday, slowly starting to see things brighten up, and a similar picture on Tuesday.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And that's it from us. The ITV Evening News is next with Lucrezia Millarini.
Join Rachel Hepworth just after 10:30 from all of us here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.